basically cancel out all hope, in my opinion, that New York City could ever turn red again. There are going to be pockets of it in certain places. I know, Russell and I have fought hard to get certain areas to turn purple, especially southern Brooklyn, where we had some successes in 2011, 2012, in that time. But going forward, the city's gone. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people to leave the city, especially if they're well-to-do and have, monies to support candidates, and go to these places where there are more conservative people who live there and get the results skewed in their favor. It's not a scam because it's legal in New York to have a second residence and to register from that second residence. But by the time you get through the court system to challenge whether people actually reside where they vote or not, you're stuck with an election result. It's brilliant in its ingenuity and in its deviousness. It's one of those things where thinking outside the box is coming in handy, but it also shows you how liberals and progressives, they're coming down to the wire, folks. They need the help. They need everything to fall in their favor in order to win a lot of these seats. They're getting nervous because of what happened with Judge Kavanaugh. Now, let's talk about that for a second. I know we touched on it earlier in the show, but as we're taping the show through the week, we have to bring up different stories from the media and how Kavanaugh was treated and the aftermath of it and how it's going to affect the race going forward in the midterms. I saw Mary Catherine Ham on Brooke Baldwin's show this week, and there's a clip here when talking about the mob, and I don't mean Italians for anybody out there. I'm not talking about the AO how you doing people. Talking about people, liberals, toxic left, progressives, people on the left who have been behaving badly, as an understatement, really. The people going after Ted Cruz and his family in a restaurant. The people trying to bang down the doors of the Supreme Court after Justice Kavanaugh was confirmed. And, instead of me talking about it, listen to this clip.
Trump, nothing that happened, last week is going to matter to the person who's already upset about all the other things Donald Trump has done. Democrats were motivated, passionate, angry. Sure. They are either going to turn out or they're not. Republicans, they're the team that needed the excitement, the passion, the energy. They didn't have it in midterms. That's what matters for turnout, and now I think they do. And it's because I believe it's the overreaction of the left. When you see people like Ted Cruz getting chased out of restaurants by a mob.
You're not going to use the mob word here.
It's totally a mob. It is without a doubt. There's no other word for it. It's a go watch. Put up the video.
Mob, stop. A mob is what we saw in Charlottesville, Virginia, 2 August ago.
No,
a mob is not what we saw chasing. I'm not saying what they did was right.
What about the people who were at the Supreme Court banging on the walls? What do you call that? Civil protest? Or is that a mob? I think it's easily a mob.
Yeah, and if it were Tea Partiers, we'd call it a mob for sure. Come on, let's be serious.
Let me move past the M word, because I do feel like that is part of the weaponization.
Yes, let's stop using the M word. It's disturbing me. This is my safe space. You're on my show and you can't use such words. Come on, folks. Obviously, CNN is looking to protect a certain side, and let's say which side. Starts with an L and ends with an F. It's absolutely mind-boggling how you try to use language against people instead of using words for what they actually mean. When you talk about the mob, the angry mob, what we've seen in the past couple of weeks has been the angry mob. There's no other way to spin it. There's nothing civil about some of these protests. Going after Ted Cruz's family is not a civil protest. Calling on people to not be civil, the way that Hillary Clinton has, or the way that Eric Holder has, when they go low, kick them. That's not civil. If you want to go and march and peaceably protest whatever is your issue du jour, cool, go for it. I think you may or may not be wasting your time. I've protested things that I don't like. I don't necessarily get my way all the time either, but it is worth doing. There are some fights that are worth fighting for if you are principled. And I get that. That's cool. That's America. But don't go to a restaurant just because there's a politician there to harass them. Don't break into an elevator and start screaming and denigrating a politician just because you can. Don't go up to the steps of the Supreme Court in that venerable building and start slamming on the door like you're a bunch of animals. Yeah, I said it, a bunch of animals. And the people in that crowd were all races, all genders, all creeds. You're all animals. Stop acting like animals and start acting like human beings again. You'll get more done. Like we said before earlier in the show, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And there is so much vinegar going around that it's burning everyone. Be persuasive. Come up with an argument. Assert yourself. You know, when I was talking to people online about the Newsmax article that we talked about earlier about millionaires and billionaires donating to the causes of their choice, there was one person that engaged with me on Twitter that said, you know, whataboutism? So what? The right does that too, and they take money from Russia and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But, you know, where are you getting this from? Where's this coming from? And they showed me a link to an op-ed and all that, but the discourse is civil. It's me and someone else talking about it and having a conversation and respecting the other person. Demonizing the left is not going to make them stronger. I'm sorry, demonizing the left will make them stronger. Treating them as human beings will not. It'll take away the aura. Perfect example. And I can't believe I'm admitting this on air, but I have regular conversations nowadays with Linda Sarsour. We're both kids from Brooklyn. We've talked about our families, and we've had conversations about politics on both of our Facebook pages. And it's always been civil, respectful. I disagree with just about everything she says. She agrees with me sometimes on things. She doesn't like Cory Booker as much as I don't like Cory Booker. Bipartisan support on that. You know, that there can be common ground made with people that you are diametrically opposed to. It can happen. It happens in government all the time. It's called bipartisanship in the halls of Congress. But how about just being a human being in real life? We're not always in a courtroom. We're not always in the court of public opinion. Be decent to each other. You know, and if you want to know what decency is, go back to the movie Bonfire of the Vanities and listen to Morgan Freeman address the maddening crowd, the mob there. Decency is what your grandmama taught you. It's in your bones, people. Or at least it should be if you're a reasonable human being. And while I'm questioning the reasonableness of some, I think we should be questioning the motives more of others. People are lathered up into a frenzy by others with agendas. That's why I'm not calling for the heads of people who are protesting. Yes, they're dumb, they're stupid, they're arrogant, they have a superiority complex, they're on the wrong side of history. Yes, 1,000 times yes. But when you break them down and you have a civil conversation with them in those rare opportunities, like I've had with Linda Sarsour, like I had with this gentleman on Twitter today, and with many other friends of mine who are liberals, we're able to have a civil discourse. We're able to joke around, pal around. Maybe not so much with Linda Sarsour because we keep it kind of more formalized and very respectful in our communications. But you're able to have that human interaction that for some odd reason works because you're talking about ideas and beliefs and you're not going after the person. We need more of that from the protesters. I think both sides can give a little and get a little, but ultimately we're on the right side of history when it comes to where we stand on issues, and that will win the day. And that's why I think conservatism and the conservative movement is the greatest thing in the world. Because we do this amongst ourselves already. We already have factions that we have to interact with and come together with and coalesce and unite with. And the left has already done that for us heading into these midterms. But we need to see more civility in our discourse. And let it start with me. I'll be the one to start it off. I'll take the bullet and the heat from everyone saying, why are you talking to Linda Sarsour? Why are you, talking to liberals? Why are you agreeing with so-and-so? I'll take that hit. We're going to take a quick break. Speaking of hits, be right back right after these brief words.
Time for a little music. We call this, What the F*** is Maxine Waters Saying?
To be clear, you believe it would have been better to keep in place an FBI director who you said had no credibility to oversee this investigation than to find someone who you think would be a better choice?
No. But I believe the president thought that. Don't forget, you're talking about what some Democrats said, what I said, but don't forget, he was the president. The president supported him. He had confidence in him. It was within his power. And
but you said he had no credibility, so it would seem to make sense that he should get rid of him.
No. Under investigation, this president basically has interfered with an investigation where he may be implicated. That's outrageous, and that's why we're having so much of a conversation about it today.
The bottom line is that you think an FBI director without credibility would have been best served in this position to try to pursue this investigation.
I think if the president had fired him when he first came in, he would not have to be in a position now where he's trying to make up a story about why it does not meet the smell test.
Yeah, something smells all right.
Understood. So if Hillary Clinton had won the White House, would you have recommended that she fire FBI Director James Comey?
Well, let me tell you something. If she had won the White House, I believe that given what he did to her and what he tried to do, she should have fired him.
So she should have fired him, but he shouldn't have fired him. This is why I'm confused.
No, you're not confused.
Yes, I am. Behind Enemy Lines.
Gene Berardelli back behind Enemy Lines. That Maxine Waters clip gets me every time. Here I am laughing out loud in the studio. I gotta make sure I'm not live or anything. But the clip also gives us to a nice segue because they were talking about the firing of James Comey and the intrigue going on with the FBI leadership and their seeming battle with Donald Trump. Well, check this story out that's developing right now. Sarah Carter and other reporters, Fox News, I'm sure you saw this on Hannity if you choose to watch Hannity and his rah-rah stuff. I have to watch it, so you don't. But Sarah Carter is reporting, that former FBI General Counsel James Baker told lawmakers under oath this week in a deposition, under penalties of perjury, mind you, that based on his conversations with Lisa Page and Andrew McCabe, that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was actually seriously considering secretly recording President Trump's conversations in an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him from office as being unfit. If this is true, folks, that is what is called a soft coup. That is taking a duly elected official out of power under color of law based upon, very bad acts, like you would see in third world countries. According to the sources, and again, this is a big if, the source apparently has direct knowledge of this deposition, which means they were either there, or they read a transcript, or something of that, something like that. They're saying that Baker had met with McCabe and Page shortly after they had met with Rosenstein in May of last year, and that McCabe, Page, and Rosenstein had had a discussion about the possibility of secretly recording President Trump. Baker, who was a top lawyer there, he was a confidant of Jim Comey, the same Jim Comey that you heard about the firing in the Waters clip, hence the segue, noted that he wasn't in the meeting at all, but the source also claims that Baker testified that McCabe and Page took the conversation seriously, and they discussed the possibility together with Rosenstein. My goodness. So now you throw this in with the tenuous at best connection between Carter Page and Trump and Russian collusion based upon a suspect dossier that was actually opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC through Perkins Coie. You tie all that in with trying to get Trump before the election. Now they're trying to get Trump after the election. If this is true, and that's a big if, folks. I don't take this lightly, talking to you about this. These are serious allegations that are based upon an anonymous source. So we need to take this